One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream.
There is an indefinable, mysterious power that pervades everything.
Hello, people. Welcome again. Guys, we're bringing it to you today. It is another Sunday, and we're bringing you that mental health awareness today. And I'm so excited. So we're going to give a round of applause for our guest right now in the building. Old friend of mine. We're old high school mates from the Mighty Pioneers. If you don't know, now you know. So representing really quick. So welcome today. I'll basically start off, guys. Welcome again. You could have been anywhere else in the place, but guess what? You're here with us. Glad for you to join us. We were not. I'm not going to do any try to introduce anyone, because guess what? My mom always told me, you try to do an introduction for someone else, you're gonna always mess it up. So I'll introduce myself. Mr. 305, Mr. Daily Insight, Mr. Inspiration, coming to you guys. And then we got our other guests in the building. So DA, take it off. Introduce yourself, sir.
Yo, this is another Sunday. A happy Sunday to everyone that's tuning in to I Stand on That podcast. We're very happy and very excited about this conversation we're about to have with Valerie Carmel. And it's one of those conversations that I think is long overdue. Some people have, some people have quipped that, during the pandemic, a lot of men have turned to podcasts instead of therapy. You know what I'm saying? So it's good that, so now today we have a therapist on the podcast. Yeah. And so without further ado, Valerie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, happy Sunday, everybody. My name is Valerie Carmel. I am a licensed therapist in the state of Florida and in Nevada. I have been a therapist for about, I'm going to age myself, but almost 20 years. So almost 20 years. I predominantly work with African-American and Caribbean women who are struggling with anxiety and trauma and stress management. So that is definitely the area in which I really kind of focus on. And my goal is to really help demystify mental health within the Black and brown spaces so we can become a lot more confident and open in discussing our mental health. So thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited about today.
Yes, love it. And honestly, we it's been long overdue. I did talk to you doing season 2. I know you remember that conversation. I said, we're gonna get you on. I love what you're doing. I follow you. I support it. So and honestly, we all deal something that we do deal with. So it's one of those things that people shun away but I'm not gonna spoil anything here. But we're gonna get into these questions. First and foremost, why did you basically get into this space? Like, how did you stumble upon it? Did it call you? You call it? Talk to us about that.
I would like to say, like Bob Ross says, a happy accident. I actually, when I went to Florida State, them Knowles, we don't play. But I get there, and actually what I really wanted to do was to become a pediatric neurologist, is actually what I really wanted to do. I always fascinated by the way people think, what makes people do the things that they do. And I always loved working with kids. I grew up in a family where if you walked into my house, even though my mom had only 2 kids, there would be like 10 children. And my dad would come in and be like, well, who is your mama? And whose child is this? Because my mom was basically like the neighborhood mom. Many of the people who ended up coming over to our household, many of them were also immigrants to the U.S. I'm first generation. My family is originally from Haiti, and many of right? Not boule, like, so this is my people, right? And so we're constantly surrounded by people who English is their first language. They're learning the language. They're working menial jobs. There many of them working 2 jobs and having to be, many of them dealing with domestic violence, right? Mm-hmm. Many of them dealing with lots of financial barriers and things of that nature. And my mom was constantly taking people, helping people out and taking people in. So that's kind of the environment in which I grew up in. So that's where the pediatric part came from. And my exposure to child abuse, trauma, and understanding the impacts that was having on the family systems, that's where that process came from. So get to Florida State. I'm like, bet this is what I want to do, get there. And lo and behold, one of the classes I needed to get into actually was full, so I'm getting there freshman. And if you've never tried to get on as a freshman trying to get into the class that you need, you have to wake up at the crack of dawn. Right? To like hurry up and get your classes in. And so that's basically what happened. Right. Putting it in and talked to my advisor, and she was like, look, take an intro to social work class. Like, it'll be easy. Just take it. And then next semester, we'll do better about getting you into class. Well, next semester, I changed my major and became
just like that. Wow. Okay.
It was like, oh, this is it. This is this blended all the aspects that I really wanted to be able to do, affect change in people's lives, understand the psychology behind why people become who they become, and how to and how to get you from where you started to where you really want to be. And I can do all of that without having to incur $100,000 worth of student loan debt in med school. Sign me up. At that point, it was a no-brainer for me.
Mm-hmm. So you were factoring in the side of student loans with, all right, well, I can still, knock out two birds based on one stone. This is your way to go. Okay. And that's how you became to come into this field.
Pretty much.
Wow. Okay. DA Fireway, I know you got some questions as well, man. So
yeah, absolutely. And so
you've been itching over here a little bit.
Yeah, but so Valerie, like, what challenges did you have, like, entering into the professional space? It's one thing to learn it in the classroom, but then it's another thing to make it your business, your profession, is how you're going to pay your bills. So what challenges did you first have when you first entered into the field?
I mean, coming into the field, I think it was just, I'm trying to think back. So this was my thought process coming into the field, was that I'd already been taught, like, okay, if I'm going into becoming a social worker, well, I'm not going to make no money. That was like, right? Like, that was something.
Side note, not to cut you off. I went to school to do so, but when I figure out the money that I had to do a master's and go to school longer, I changed my complete major. So I do sympathize when you say that.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was like the standing expectation to everyone, that you're not going to make any money doing this. You're doing it out of the kindness and the goodness of your heart. Okay. Because I mean, I guess I can pay my mortgage company hearts, but whatever. So we get there. So that was kind of like the expectation. So going in, I actually started working out in child welfare, right? So working for the Department of Children and Families, kind of processing adoptions. And that was a pretty big learning curve, right? I mean, I graduated college a year early. So when I graduated college at 20 and got my first job like a few months later when I had just turned 21. So walking into the field, I literally know nothing. Right? Like, I know nothing about life. I know nothing about like real struggles at that point. I mean, I grew up in pretty, suburban kind of feel, and really couldn't necessarily immediately relate to a lot of these places where, if you are from South Florida, actually, if you watch the first 48, like, I mean, many of my clients were, lived in the pork and beans, Scott, I'm talking about Brownsville, Brown Subs, like the hood. And I'm walking in there, and it was really kind of like, okay, I need to learn a lot more about what is happening culturally within this space. And that was something that was not taught, right? I think to a certain degree, there was kind of like this expectation because, oh, well, you from the 305, so you kind of know. Well, not really.
Yeah.
Right. So that probably was really the hardest part for me. The other thing was, I mean, at 21, I still probably looked 17. I mean, I would have kids who were literally bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So me trying to have to provide therapy and kind of support to grown-ups who are looking at me like, who is this child?
Who are you? Who are you to
Right,
teach?
right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think that was ultimately the biggest challenge that I had in the beginning, understanding the culture and literally people just minimizing what I knew from
Mhm.
like a, a standpoint of like the information in terms of how to help people understand the skills, better communication,
Mhm.
understanding family dynamics. I think a lot of them, because I looked so young,
Mhm.
um, really didn't have a lot of faith in me initially. And there was always a learning. There was always a period of time where I had to constantly earn people's trust. Constantly had to show them like I may look. I'm pretty tiny. I'm 4'11", right? So I'm talking about
I
right.
was
So like
I was
right,
gonna talk. I
12
was
year
gonna
olds are
talk
bigger
about
than me.
that. I was gonna talk about that, but I say I'm not gonna be the one to talk
I'm
about
pretty
your height.
small,
But
right?
you go ahead and talk
Right.
about
So
it.
I mean, 12-year-olds are bigger than me at this point, right? So
Mhm.
like a lot. I think that was probably one of the other biggest barriers that I had to deal with. Just the
Yeah.
perception of people looking at me and automatically kind of discrediting what change and support that I could provide until
Mhm.
they got to know me, and then I won them over, and then it was a little bit easier. But that would probably be the biggest challenges.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, based on that, I got a follow up because you mentioned
Mhm.
something that I heard um, that people don't. If you can't, let me say this. So let's say you're not coming from that 305, that Dade County, and you're coming from Kentucky or something like that, and you come into Miami, become a licensed therapist. Um, would you think that individual can kind of grasp the concept, walking in the poking beans, being in the projects, Wynwood, and all those different areas? Do you think they'll be able to adapt or basically understand what these individuals go through, and then try to kind of use their schooling and kind of what they learn to kind of not win over, but basically get them to a different level? Do you think there's a difference when it comes to those backgrounds, like someone coming from that area and not being from the area? Talk to me about that.
In a lot of ways, yes, right? Because ultimately, when you are in the mental health space, right, as a
Mm-hmm.
therapist, as a social worker, the biggest thing that affects change is that client's relationship with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Research has shown that where people have what makes therapy become the most effective experience for you
Mm-hmm.
is not necessarily my accolades, my degrees, my experiences. It's actually whether or not the client trusts and likes their therapist.
Mhm.
So if you
Okay.
don't like me, you don't trust me, there's going to be very, very minimal growth because you're not going to share, you're not going to be transparent, you're not going to be invested, you're not going to be committed. So there has to be a lot of work that has to be done in your ability to be able to relate to the person you're speaking to. They have to
Relatable.
feel like you can understand their struggles and not judge them in the
Mhm.
midst of their
Mm-hmm.
struggle. So that was something that I think this is why cultural, diversity, inclusion. This is why it's so important, especially within Black and Brown spaces, because we historically don't trust nobody. Any system, any institution, it doesn't matter. You come in, we don't really know you that much, so we're not going to tell you too much. So it's
Justified too.
yeah,
Justified as well.
absolutely, absolutely, because we're talking about systemic oppression and a lot of different things that have consistently provided lots of that have been barriers to us,
Mm-hmm.
and so people are weary, right? And so if you come in very green, right, very green, no real kind of experience. You don't understand the language. First of all, the language is one thing, because I mean, and I'm not talking about just English. I'm talking about the different vernacular and terms that we utilize to be able to express ourselves. If you can't catch up with that, then it's a wrap. They're automatically writing you off.
So like you said, so hi, my name's Becca, and I'm your actual therapist coming in here, and we're just gonna all just you already shaking your head like they already looking at it like, nah, woman,
this ain't it.
this ain't it. So
this ain't it. I'm talking about when I walk into the project, I'm wearing jeans, tennis shoes, t-shirt. Like I'm
Mike got on some J's too.
You know what I'm saying? Like I look like them, right?
J's.
I'm laid back. This is not a professional kind of experience, right? So I walk in like that, right? So I pull up, dope boys on the corner, be like, hey, listen, I gotta go holler at my girl. Listen, y'all watch my car. When I come back out, if it's still here, I'm gonna go get y'all McDonald's and I'm come back through. What? Bet. Cool. Boom. Go in, work, do what I gotta do, come back, swim back around, bring me some McDonald's. All right.
Look, hold on, Val. See, you said something that was like key, right? You're already peeping and speaking their language. You know what I mean? You're already kind of setting them up because Becky gonna come in there. Okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna use Karen because we're gonna use Karen. So Karen comes in there. She's like, where is, she's already maybe afraid. She's never been around those individuals. She's never went to school with those individuals. She's never had a friend. So she don't understand, like you said, the vernacular, just the comfort level and just being around those individuals. And she's going there. She's not saying, hey, watch my car. And I give you some McDonald's. No, she's not going in there. She just hopes she locked the door and hope, I'm just going in and hoping nothing happens. But you just said something was very key. Hey, listen, I'm finna go and holler real quick. You know what I'm talking about? So just watch my car. I got you to McDonald's. We cool on that. We dap on it and you out and you go and do your business. And that's very key. So you already kind of, when you come in the neighborhood, oh, nah, that's just a therapist. Like, man, she cool. Don't mess with her. You already kind of, when people starting to see you more often, nah, that's the therapist. Like, hey, I think I need some help now. You gonna come talk to me? You know what I mean? So it's already one of those things being established. So that's big. That's big. So you're already kind of letting their guard down when you're coming around. So it's just like, oh nah, she always being here, man. She going to talk about your mental health. You know what I'm saying? She cool, shouty. Don't mess with her. You know what I mean? So that's deep. That's cool though. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any 2 cents on that? Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say it's just like now you sound familiar. You sound like someone they've met before, like because you understand the social cultural setting in which you're operating in, and so you're just I'm just like everybody else that knows in the social and cultural setting that I'm operating in. Because here's the thing too, right? Because someone might listen to this conversation and think that works on every Black community, and it doesn't, right? And even in the same community, it won't work on a different set of kids if you're not aware as to who you're actually talking to. So it's even more, it's more specific. But it's I don't know how, if that makes any sense, but it's just
I get what you're saying.
I totally get what you're saying because I'm picturing it because coming from again Miami-Dade, the line between the Pork and Beans and Little Haiti is literally like a street. It's just it's a few blocks over, right? And so how I would approach going to the Pork and Beans is very different when I go see my clients in Little Haiti. When I go into Little Haiti, I'm speaking straight Creole. There is no English out of my mouth.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so that is what allows me for them to feel more comfortable in those spaces as well. Right. So you have to figure out, and I think, people have really gotten to the place of like the difference between code switching, but this is not therapeutically, right. But therapeutically, the way for me to be able to show up in a space that allows other people to be able to feel comfortable and open to what I have to offer to them is for me to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
That is a very, very strong it is part of the social work code of ethics. You have to meet a client where they are. So if I can't know that you struggle with the English language, know that you speak that Creole is your first language. I speak Creole fluently, but then I don't meet you there. Like, how does that benefit either one of us? Right. So I have to meet you where you are at, because this is not about me. This is about you. This is about me helping you to feel more comfortable and more open to the process. So I absolutely agree with you on that point. Like, you have to really kind of understand the nuances amongst the cultures. And in order for you to be able to really engage people and interact with them and get them to get to a place where they're open enough to want to be transparent and share things with you, that they probably wouldn't share with anybody else.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Which brings me to this other question, right?
Mhm.
The stigma, right? When it comes to our people, and when we say our people, we mean our people. This color on here,
The melanated folks. The
this
melanated.
melanated folks, as it says on your website. You know what I mean? So, when it comes to the stigma, right? Trying to talk to the specialists, get help. What are like the numbers? Because you mentioned, and I had a chance to go on your site. I know you predominantly deal with a lot of women as well. I don't know if that's a targeted thing or if it's not, but I'm gonna get there. So what numbers have you seen with the stigma since you started to now? Like, because I know when I was growing up, to be honest, hey, be strong as a male, be strong, don't cry, don't let it out. You know what I mean? Don't be a wimp. That's always been the thing. Be strong, be hard, be firm. But listen, men need an outing as well. Men need someone to talk to, because normally as males, I'm gonna be honest, women, y'all can get together and have conversations. Girl, oh my gosh, I need to talk to you, and get it out, have a drink, whatever, over dinner, and be cool. Men, we're not gonna really necessarily sit there. Hey, bro, man, my woman, she hurt my feelings, bro. Like bro, I'm vulnerable. We don't talk like that. You understand? Which is, nah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. You know what I mean? We're not really, being, vulnerable with the next male, because it makes us look what's the S word? Soft. You know what I mean? So we're not going there. So what has been like the numbers? Because I'm pretty sure there are numbers when it regards to that stigma. When you got into it, like, has that number grown? People still think it's a whole stigma, or are people reluctant more? So, you know what? Since it's you and you're using the vernacular to speak to people and meet them where they are, have the numbers grown when it comes to that, or has it kind of stayed the same in your eyes when it comes to us blacks getting that help that we need? Because the other culture, it's normal for them. It's normacy. With us, it's different. So have you seen the numbers gradually go up, down when it comes to that?
I'm proud to say that I have seen more Black and brown people go to therapy now ever in the history of the time that I've been a therapist, ever.
Okay.
I think a lot of that has had a lot to do with the pandemic, right? I mean, it was really, really rough. And in actuality, I actually started my practice in the middle of the pandemic for that reason. I was working full time at the hospital, and I had multiple staff people coming up to me. Hey, do you see people on the side? Like, I know somebody who's really looking for a therapist, blah, blah, blah. And they're struggling to find Black female therapists, right? Within their insurances, right? And whether that's within their insurance or even EAP, because we're talking about people who work for companies that provide that kind of service. But many times what happens is that you get with somebody through an EAP service, right? You get 4 or to 6 sessions completely free.
Break that down. EAP sessions for the people who don't know.
So EAP is the employee assistance program that many corporate companies have as part of an added benefit to their employees, to be able to help them manage the stress and things that are going on, not just within work, but also within their personal lives, because we all know eventually the struggles in our personal life will bleed into our work life, right? And at the end of the day, corporations lose, I believe the number was somewhere around $9 billion a year off of mental health related struggles, because people are calling out sick, they're showing up and they're not prepared, or they're just at work, but you ain't really working. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just moving papers around and you just making it do. Well, I can't call. Well, I done called out 3 days last week. I can't call out again. I'm out of PTO.
Milking the clock.
I'm just gonna show up, but I'm gonna just do the bare minimum, right? So corporations are realizing, like, we're losing money, right? And at the end of the day, unfortunately, this is we are a capitalistic society. So at the end of the day, anybody losing money, we figuring out solutions, right? Yes. So that is where employee assistance programs ultimately came from, because they realized people are struggling. If we help them get the support that they need, then they're better able to show up and work, and we can continue functioning as a corporation, right? So
Mhm.
many times what has happened is that people will go try to find somebody through their EAP programs because it's free to them for many corporations for a certain amount of sessions. But then sometimes when they may uncover there's other deeper things going on, and then now they don't have maybe they can't continue with that person because maybe that
Mhm.
person doesn't accept their insurance, right? And so
Right.
that's a struggle. So that actually ended up being how I started my practice because I had multiple people. I think I had like 3 or 4 people come up to me in 1 week and ask me the same question.
Wow.
And then I was like, you know what?
So that's when is that light
Lights,
went on? Okay.
the lights
All
started
right.
going off. And I was like, all right, let me see what's gonna take for me to do this because
Listen, if y'all listening, y'all heard what she said. Her business started booming. And I call it a pandemic. It's not a pandemic to me. I call it a pandemic. Don't ask me why. But as y'all hear that, basically a lot of businesses and people flourish in this pandemic, right? So a lot of people either took advantage of it or they didn't. And you're one of those individuals, which is beautiful. So
yeah, man, it's and that's coming off of maybe like the tail end of me dealing with my own mental health issues. At the time when I dropped my book in 2019, I was doing really well. I had just finished my book. I just got promoted at the hospital. I became team lead. Lots of good things were happening to me. And I started having panic attacks for the first time in my life, feeling like wild horses running through my chest out of
wow.
nowhere. And I was like, okay, hair falling out. I would do like this and like strands. And I would be
Wow.
like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And a part of me knew what was going on, but of course, we got a little bit of denial, right? So I was like, well, maybe my thyroid acting up. Let me go talk to this nurse practitioner. Let me go do some labs.
Yeah.
And so we did all of that and discovered, no, that's not it. And at that point, I ended up getting on anxiety medication for several months to get it under control because I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating. It just was really making it hard. And as a single mom with at that time, a son who was I think at that point he was in beginning of middle school, it was rough. It was really, really challenging to try to make it through the day. Right. And so not sleeping at night, but I got to be up to do all the things that I got to do to just function. And it really just caught up with me. And I couldn't find a Black female therapist. Like I work for the hospital system. I'm a therapist and I'm struggling to find a Black female therapist. And the one that I did find that I started to work with after my EAP sessions were done, I couldn't continue. And so I ended up just out of frustration, went and learned it myself, like got a certification in treating anxiety to treat myself, to have a better understanding as to what I needed to do and change about my life to really manage the anxiety in such a way. So then a year later, now we're in a pandemic and now people are asking me, I'm like, okay, bet. Now I see how to like really blend all of these both professional experiences and personal experiences together and use it, right? Because nothing that happens in our life does God waste, right? Everything is utilized for a purpose, for something else. So
look, it's Sunday and you're preaching already. And listen, and listen, let me tell you this. This has been a thing that stuck with me once it happened twice to me. Because you mentioned something, God never wastes how did you say it?
He never wastes your experiences. Everything you go through, you can actually utilize in some shape, fashion, or form for future reason.
Repurpose it, basically, as I call it. So here's the thing though, and then I'm gonna let you get your question.
Yeah.
Something happened to me a few times, right? So what happened? Can't remember what it was, but the point I'm making, whatever it was, once it happened to me, somebody else was dealing with the same situation, right? Didn't know how to deal with it, didn't know how to come out of it. And they just happened one day, just started pouring into me and just started talking. I'm looking around. Yo, you talking to me? Looking up. God, is this the moment to have that conversation with them? With the same, they went through the exact how it happened. to the middle to the end, it's the same exact way it happened with me. I'm like, damn, saying to myself, this is my moment. So I use my experiences. They didn't know how am I going to get out of it. And I used my experience because I was one of the individuals that went through it. So I was able to use my experiences. Hey, this is how I did it. It worked for them. And that happened to me twice. So the point that you made, the fact that you said that our experiences will be used for the good, and our experiences are not for us. They're for other people.
Absolutely.
So we can use our experience to other people. You know what I mean? So a lot of people, why does it happen to me? It's a reason for it. Because you're going to come through it and you're going to help somebody else that's struggling to get through it. So
absolutely,
I believe that. DA, go ahead with your question, man.
Yeah. So Val, talk to us now, because you mentioned you first you had your issues. You went to learning how to fix yourself. Pandemic happens, and then people are coming up to you like, "Whoa, I have issues. Any solutions?" So like what type of issues, or to what type of areas in mental health in your practice do you specialize in? And also, just to piggyback too, what have you been most proud of in your journey as well?
I love that question, by the way. So the areas that I specialize in are anxiety. I have a on top of my license, I have an additional certification in anxiety, and I have a additional certification in trauma. And
Y'all go follow her. That's the website, ValerieCarmel.com, and the ticker below. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. And ultimately, those two things really kind of go hand in hand, because anybody who is struggling with trauma, when you look through the huge diagnostic mental health book, it actually states that invariably, means in almost every situation, if you have trauma, PTSD type stuff, you also have anxiety. Offering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The two are coming together. So it just made sense to have a deeper understanding of both things, because oftentimes people will come to me and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm anxious. Okay, we'll work through the anxiety, and then I'll dig, and then it's like, oh, it's because there's trauma there." And oftentimes the reason why people, and I think actually was having this conversation with a colleague of mine yesterday, it isn't that people want to avoid dealing with their trauma, is that many times they don't realize that their experience was trauma. They have no clue.
The education behind it. Okay.
The education behind it, right? And so if you have been living in a household where example, walking on eggshells all the time, that's normal to you. You don't think that's traumatic, but it is. It is a form of emotional abuse. So if you don't recognize that this experience is that, and can title it in such that way, that it makes it very, very difficult for you to address it. So for me, those two things have really kind of come hand in hand. And another area that I really, really work a lot on is stress management, right? Because, the world is stressful. That's just what it is. So, and reality is, because of the demographic in which I serve, we have very specific and significant stressors, not just from familial things and, professional life type stuff, but also all of the systems in which we have to navigate, right? Housing systems. We're talking about dealing with families. Maybe we have families who are incarcerated. Maybe we are dealing with financial strain because we didn't get them. Our parents may not have had the level of financial literacy to explain to us how we're supposed to deal with these things. Yeah, we're making more money, but we're not really doing anything with it, right? We don't know how to maneuver it, right? So that for me has been really the areas of which I really, really specialize in, and help people to not just understand what they are going through, and learning skills to manage them, but also help you create a lifestyle that keeps all of that as low as possible so that you can continue to function. And so for me, the thing that I am most proud of is becoming a person who practices what she preaches. That for me is the thing I'm the most proud of, right? Because there was a time, for a long time, to be very frank and honest with you, I knew all the things to say, I knew all the things for you to do, but I didn't take my own advice. Right?
Was that difficult? Speaking of that?
I think in a lot of ways, I don't think I realized that that I wasn't taking my own advice.
Okay.
To be honest, I think I thought because I had these experiences that I didn't need to do it the same way that I was sharing it with somebody else.
So you thought you could cut some corners?
Yeah,
Almost.
I could cut some corners.
That's
I
good.
don't need
Okay.
as much of that. You know, I mean, I know I need rest, but I don't need all that rest. No, now I rest. No.
That makes sense.
Right. And so I now, after dealing with panic attacks, which I no longer have, thank God, but I still have anxiety. Like it's just part of who I am. But most days it doesn't, I would say 98% of the time, it does not impact me. Most days I can get through the day and I don't feel anxious one bit. Little things I know that I can anticipate because I know myself well. When it rises up, I know what to do. But I live my life and I have set my lifestyle up in such a way that it allows me to maintain the process that I have created already, right? And that's the truth with anything in life. Anything that you want to have as a goal and you meet that goal, meeting the goal isn't the real struggle. We think it is, but it's not. The real struggle is maintaining that goal. Because you can drop 15 pounds in a heartbeat. You're gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do okay. All right, don't maintain it. We're gonna keep eating this sleeve of Oreos and riding through this Chick-fil-A line 2 and 3 times a week. See what happened.
She said the Chick-fil-A line.
I love Chick-fil-A. That's my jam. So, if I do that, it's coming right back. Like
it's coming right back.
The issue isn't the goal. The issue is the maintenance of said goal. So that is where ultimately I am most proud of, because I know that is the hardest part as it relates to maintaining your mental wellness.
That's crazy, right? And that's universal, man. It's just like you say, the weight and just, it's about not losing it, but maintain it, because it is, as you just mentioned, a lifestyle. You understand? People are like, oh, how do you maintain this? Well, I practice it. You know what I mean? I don't live my life. All right, well, yeah, you can eat anything you want, but there's moderations, right? You're going to pick 1 or 2 days out of the week. You're going to go in, and then the rest of those days, you got to kind of keep it even keel. You know what I mean? And just like how you're dealing with stress and different things like that, guess what? It's a lifestyle. You can't just pick it up, drop it off, and be done with it. You understand? That's not really a thing. And honestly, when it comes to that, right, I feel as though we all dealt with it, but we don't know, like you just mentioned, we don't know what the heck it is. You know what I mean? I've dealt with my father not being in my life, right? And a lot of people say, man, you're successful, you got this, you got that. Do you still deal with it? Yeah, I do. It's going to be a lifelong thing. You know what I mean? My dad lived here in Orlando, right? I tried to invite him to come to an event here, let me down. But guess what? I didn't cry over it, because guess what? I did have days that I wept. I was upset because I wanted him to be in my life, but guess what? He wasn't. You know what I mean? So would it come moments where, and we're gonna have a mini story time, right? Since you're on, because I can identify that I deal with it. You know what I mean? Whether I accept it or not, that's 2 totally different things. So I went to it was called Go See Dad Be Daddy Day. That's kind of how I kind of phrase it. So it's me, my brother, my 2 brothers. I got one on my dad's side, one on my mom's side. So we went to go see mine last. So we're in the room of his girl, a woman. Wasn't my mom, someone else. She already had kids. So we're in the living room. Yo, what's up? I'm trying to see you. I want to be around you. Why you not in my life? What's going on? This lady come around the corner yelling, screaming, hollering while we're trying to, me and my dad, or I call him a donor, but he's been passed away at this moment, like last year. So she comes in the room and says, you need to get out of my house with your old educated ass, right? Just, I'm saying, say what? My educated ass? I thought that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Trying to get an education, educate myself. So that's not the straw. So she's like, you better get out my house. And I kind of just looked at him. You ain't gonna do nothing about this. You gonna let her talk to me, your blood? You gonna, yeah. He ain't do nothing. He just looked at her, and he just put his head down like this. I said, "Okay, you defeated. She got you. She got you by the balls." So I'm leaving the room. I'm leaving the house, exiting. She she yelling. She going back and forth. They have a fence around the house. So once we leave, I have to go out the door, right? Or the fence. I close the fence behind me, and she steady going back and forth. This is what I do. I jump at her like I'm a hitter, but the gate already closed. And here's my donor jumped in front of her like I dare you to hit her. Right? So what do you think? I'm 17, 18 years old at the time. What do you think that did to me? You understand? At that, what do you think that did to me? You let me know she's more important. You don't give a damn about me, and that's just what it's going to be. You understand? I had to deal with that for years until I had to let it go. I said, you know what? I'm not going to allow you to define me who I am. Yeah, I wanted you in my life, but I'm a better individual because you were not in my life, because I know how I felt when you were not there. So when I eventually have kids, guess what? I know not how to be. You know what I mean? So I did that for years. Yeah, DA, I'm dropping some knowledge on you. You ain't here.
No, I mean, I think you did tell me this story.
No, I think we did talk about it at one point.
Yeah,
but anyway,
we did. Yeah.
So the thing is like I dealt with that. You know what I mean? Did I talk to somebody about it for real? Yeah, I did. But did I deal with it and continuously kind of dealt with those stuff, as you said, maintained it? I didn't. You understand? So those are, like you said, anxiety, trauma. You know, I'm recognizing some stuff like you have to kind of maintain it and talk to somebody on a continual basis. Like Charlemagne the God, he said he sees his therapist once a week at least. Maintain it, which is very.
I see my therapist every 2 weeks.
Okay, so you have a system. You have a whole system in place.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Listen,
Yeah.
I go to therapy twice. I go to therapy every other week, because the reality is when you are in the position where you're constantly working through everybody else's traumas and dramas, right? Just whatever it is. Right? That's just the reality of what my day is filled with, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the week, then what do I do with mine?
Yeah.
Because don't think that because I am in this position, in this chair, and I'm able to provide you with skills and and insight, that means that I am capable of knowing all of the ins and outs of my own life. Because the reality is we all have blind spots. Everybody got a blind spot, right? It's like, you can't do it. Well, that's my baby, but if somebody else did it now, child, you're terrible, right? So that's what we're like. We're human, right? And so if you're not in the position to recognize, be willing to hear what your blind spots are, right, then it makes it very, very challenging in order for you to be a person who's going to be able to be consistently able to go to therapy. Because we do have blind spots. And so as a therapist, I have to recognize that if I don't deal with my stuff, when I show up for other people, it may bleed into their stuff. Unintentionally.
And I'm pretty sure you can see that, right? Okay. Is it easy to point out when it comes to when you're seeing
sometimes yes, sometimes no. You right? If you're going through a period of time, right? I'll give you an example. So my dad passed away probably now 6 years ago, right? And he passed away in July. I make it a point that the day before, the day of, and usually the day after, I don't see clients intentionally.
Okay.
Because I'm still at the stage of my grief process where there are times that I don't know how I'm going to show up on those days. Because I was a daddy's girl. So me and my dad, that was my dude. You know what I'm saying? So his passing still impacts me to this day.
And how many years you say later? 6 years later?
It's been 6 years.
Wow.
And so I know that about myself. So I have to be able to not just take care of myself in those days, right? Because that's what I need, and pour into myself. And, maybe I'm looking through pictures, or I'm maybe cooking his favorite meal that me and him used to eat together, whatever that is, to honor his memory. But that doesn't mean that I'm capable all the time of being able to be present to hold space for somebody else's pain. And that's not fair to the person. right? So this is where the self-awareness is imperative to your mental wellness. It isn't just about for me to be able to understand myself, but also recognizing what things am I doing that could potentially harm and impact other people. And so I have to be able to account for that. There are sometimes, I think this past year was probably the first time that I did see clients the day of, which actually really helped. I was off the day before, so I kind of got a little bit of feels out, right? Saw my clients the day of. I was in a good space because I had made that room the day before. And then I think, and I saw clients on that Thursday. Well, I don't see clients Friday and Saturday, so I had the rest of the week, I had the rest of the last 2 days to kind of just do what I needed to do. But it was a strategic move and recognizing what I needed.
Yeah,
really smart.
And so that is part of the experience of being able to maintain your mental wellness, is that you got to know where you at. Too many of us just kind of just going through life. We just going through
With no strategy, no nothing, just kind of
with no plan, no nothing, right? I mean, many of us, we compensate because that's what we do, right? Because we don't like to be uncomfortable, right? I don't know anybody who likes to be uncomfortable. So we create and we compensate in different ways, but sometimes the ways that we compensate create bigger problems.
Dope, that's big.
Right? And so if you're not aware of that, then now we got a problem. Right? So now we've gone from you just being, having conflict in your relationship to now maybe we drinking way too much.
Yeah.
Right?
Self-medicate.
Right? We don't self-medicate. Listen, that is probably one of the things that even now I think, with my son, and my son is he has the emotional intelligence of a grown person. He's always been that way. I'm talking about, he was 3 at a Halloween party and kids crying, and he would say, "Mom, he's frustrated because he didn't like his man." Right? And people would be like, "Did he just say he's the kid is?" Yes, he's like, "Mom, he's frustrated because I think he's hot in his costume. I think they need to take the little thing off. I think he needs to take his cape off." And I would be like, "Yes, baby. Okay, let me."
That's great.
We're gonna take the cape off.
They take the cape because he's hot, and he's cranky, right? So he has that ability, but that is one of the biggest things that I'm teaching him now is distress tolerance. If you don't learn how to tolerate a certain level of distress, then every time you're uncomfortable, you're gonna automatically run to something to pacify you, to soothe you.
Food for some people, like you say, a lot of people with food, alcohol,
absolutely.
Shopping,
Gambling,
all sorts of addictions. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
vices. Yes.
I don't know if I can say the word, but physical intimacy is a way of coping with distress.
Yeah, sex.
Right? So
didn't look at it that way, but I guess we can.
It can definitely be.
Sex addiction is real. Sex addiction is real.
Sex addiction is an actual thing, right? So and sometimes it doesn't even have to lead to the level of a full-blown addiction. It can just be negatively impacting you.
Facts.
Right? And so there are lots of ways that people kind of get into these things, but this is why understanding what makes you tick, why you are the way that you are, and how you came to think the way that you think.
Your button, your hot
right?
button.
So you got to understand what that is.
So let me say something. So as we're having this conversation, it's like a part of me feels as if, because you spoke about grief, and I also had grief about 8 years ago when my mom passed. But when I think about it in the macro, right, of my life in the macro, right, I wonder if, when we talk about, the education, sex education, personal education that we teach children, that they teach children in school, right, how to, how the human body works, how we grow up, all those things. At some point, it's like we stop learning about how we function as human beings after the point of 18, right? You're going to go through this when you're 16. You're going to go through this when you're 14. We say that but then there's the other aspect, right? What happens after 18? Do we stop growing? And in the macro, I had to live life to find this out, is that we don't stop growing. You know what I'm saying? There's a point in time between there's a day that the gray hairs start to show up, right? And so
Thank you.
You get what I'm saying?
I got a few in there.
Yeah, all right.
Done in here.
I can't see them. I can't see them.
Yeah, and I use the gray hairs as an analogy because there's other things that happen. Let's say at 25, we've learned that that's when the brain starts to really lock in terms of its own maturation.
Our frontal lobe is formed at that point.
Yeah, it's formed at that point. And I actually remember how I felt, and it happened in my 25th year. Like I had already turned 25, but it was before I turned 26 that I realized, something just changed in me. You know what I'm saying? Like I literally felt a physical change. And like when I ask people about that, a lot of people report feeling that physical change. But to step back further, I guess what I'm saying is like, isn't mental health kind of part of what we go through when we are adulting? Because it seems as if like the older I got and, when I was in law school afterwards, people started to, for lack of a better word, start to crack. You know what I mean? Like the people that I thought were good, they're not good. And they're not good to the point where some have committed suicide. You see what I'm saying?
Check on your strong friends. I think that's where you're going. Check on
No,
your
strong. No, I'm not going there. I'm really just saying.
Oh, okay. In general. Okay.
Like in general, it seems like part of growing old is the challenge of mental health. Like that's part of that's part of growing up. You know what I'm saying? Until we're old, right? Is getting through this period of time when our minds, from 21 to maybe up to 50, like our minds is our greatest asset, but it can also become our greatest enemy. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted you to I don't know if that makes any sense. I wanted you to speak on that because I felt like, because the follow-up question really is, how do we prepare our children for adulthood when we know the demon that faces them after they've made it past puberty, after they've made it past college? There's an adulthood demon called, the demon of the mind. And if that's not rectified, you won't make it to 40 just because. Yeah. So I just wanted you to talk about that.
So I'm big on education. And with my clients, I'm talking about we start from almost the very first session. I'm educating you from jump. Like you're gonna take. I have all my clients take initial assessments even before I see them. I need to know your depression score. I need to know your anxiety score, and I need to know your trauma score. I need to know that before you even get here. I want quantitative information as well as qualitative information out of you. I need to make sure that the two blend together. I need to see both things. Then from there,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My therapist didn't do that with me, but keep it moving. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Everybody has their own approach. I will say everybody has their own approach.
I see that already, but continue.
Everybody has their own approach, but this is the way that I work because, again, I'm a little bit of a nerd, right? So I like numbers. I want to see things. I need to understand how everything logically fits together in this puzzle called your life. I need to help. I need to understand it, and I need to teach you how to understand it because when we're done with therapy, I don't need to know it anymore. You do. Right. And so that's where education really comes a big piece. So one of the things I really educate people about is the role of their amygdala as it relates to anxiety. So I'm gonna give y'all a quick little biology lesson today. All so right. There's a part of your brain called your amygdala that I have effectively named your inner alarm system. Every time something happens in your life that is identified as a threat, your amygdala sounds an alarm. That is why when you are stressed out, it's your fight or flight response. That flight or flight response is triggered by the amygdala sounding an alarm. Okay, so every time that happens and the alarm goes off, there's another part of your brain called your hippocampus, which is like your brain's filing system. It records that particular memory. So this is why, as you age, people struggle more and more with mental health issues because now you have more experiences. You have more opportunities for you to come up against threats that your brain has to react to. Right? So that is why you can go to, you can be, a mugging as an example, right? You get carjacked, somebody put a gun in your face. Okay, cool. That happened when you were 18. That may have happened when you were 18. You're like, all right, cool. I dealt with it. It's over. I didn't get hurt, blah, blah, blah. And then 27, and then between 18 and 27, you've had a person die. You've had this other trauma happen. You've had this loss, this thing. And now you're 32 watching a movie and you're watching somebody get carjacked and you breaking down in the movie theater and you have no understanding why.
There we go.
There we
go.
It compounds. It compounds because with life, we're going through more experiences and with more threat experiences, regardless of how your brain kind of tags it as such, right? Yeah. Now what may have been maybe 3 things on your watch list. Now you got 27 things on your watch list.
Yeah.
Right. So if you are not effectively dealing with those things as they happen, now you 49, 50 talking to me, and we talking about stuff that happened to you when you were 4. Because you never had an opportunity to work through all of these things that have created triggers for you in your life.
It just kept compounding.
It just keeps compounding. We want that when it comes to, savings and compound interest. We don't want that when it comes to okay. We want that to happen with the investments. Yes. Compound. But we don't want that when it comes to your mental wellness, which is why that experience of seeing people who you saw 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, they was on it, they were getting their stuff and okay. And then later on you're hearing, oh my God, they've committed suicide. And you're trying to understand, well, what happened? Well, what happened is there had been multiple things that occurred that have not been addressed. Right. And so when they say that the last straw, right? The last straw isn't heavier than any of the other straws. It's the same weight. It's the same weight. It's just the culmination of all the weight is when it happens. And nobody can tell anybody when your last straw is going to be your last straw. I can't tell you and say, you know what? You've gone through 27 of these experiences. So at about 30, you got 3 more times for something to happen to you. That's
not to be laughing at it, but I get your point.
No, but
I get your point. Yeah.
I have to break it down to people in this manner so that they get it, so that they can hear how ridiculous it sounds, for them to understand that the approach that they're taking is ineffective.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear it all the time when people say, like, I'm sick of it, right? And when they say, I'm sick of it, they're not sick of just this moment. It's the history that preceded that moment.
Yeah, all of it. The whole, from the rooter to the tutor, like every aspect of it, right? And so you gotta, but if you have not been able to be in a space where somebody is able to communicate with you in such a way for you to understand, like, this is a humanistic experience, right? Rain falls on the just and the unjust. All of us are going through something. And so if you can't have a safe space for you to say, like, this is something that happened to me and it impacted me, and I don't even understand how it's impacted me. One of my favorite things to do in working with clients, especially the ones who have trauma, is to, when they kind of are triggered by something and they'll, this happened and this is where was my reaction and how did I get here? I don't know why I reacted this way. My first thing is I have them close their eyes and kind of sit back in the experience, and I ask them, who did that sound like? And people will say, my ex, my daddy, my mama, my grandma, my so-and-so. Because there was something that happened before that did not get addressed. And it's just been lingering there. So now when something else that kind of is similar to that experience, right? Your brain reacts. It is a biological reaction, right? And so by one of the things that we can do better with our children is helping them to feel comfortable in talking about how they feel. If you cannot, that is by far for me what I have found to be the most detrimental thing that is happening to our community, is that people don't know how to talk about their feelings. They can't name it. That's one part. Like, I'm aggravated versus I'm annoyed versus I'm angry versus I'm enraged. Like there are different intensities to these emotions. So I need you to figure out which one are you at.
Mm-hmm.
And so without their ability to identify how they feel, for them to express themselves effectively, verbally, then how do you think that comes out in their behavior? Right? And that's what happens in schools. That's what happens in the, in criminal justice systems. Like, this is a problem. Like, people don't have the abilities.
Quick point. And there was a point where, excuse me, when I was younger, I was like 4 or 5, and you're hitting on some points. Oh my gosh. And the point is, I wasn't verbally able to express myself, right? As you just eloquently just described it. So how did I want to get my attention on my dad? Because I wanted to spend more time. You know what I mean? You're not around. I don't see you. So guess what I did? Hey, I'm gonna start a fight. I'm gonna throw some food in the cafeteria. I'm gonna slap my teacher. I'm gonna punch that boy in his face. Why? Oh, they gonna come, and guess who's gonna show up?
I'm gonna call your daddy.
This is me as a child in my head. Call him. That's what I want, because I don't see him often. You know what I mean? So, and they were like, "Why is he acting like?" And then when it happened, he started spending more time. And like, you need to be around your son. He acting up because of you. Boom, I'm around, and guess what? I ain't had no issue, none at all. And I wasn't. And they broke it down to me. I'm like, why was I acting up? Oh, you were crying. Your daddy. So when he came back around, what started happening? You stopped. You straight. You got straight A's, and you got along with the kids. You were the favorite kid in the classroom ever since that moment. So I'm like, you're breaking everything down. You're breaking the whole thing down. You know what I mean? So
that's how you create. That's how you compensate it, right? We as humans, our brain is designed. When we have a problem, it needs to create a solution. Period. That is what our brain does. The problem, I need a solution. Once you recognize that the solution worked, then you're gonna keep doing it again. Right? So you act up. Okay, he show up one time. Okay, bet that worked. I'm gonna do it again. Okay, I ain't seen it in a minute. All right. So little Leroy about to get a bloody nose today because I ain't seen my daddy in 3 weeks. Sorry, Leroy, but not sorry, because I need to. This is the way that I know to get my solution, right? And so this is how I get him to answer the phone. Correct. Right. So that is how we as human function, and without you having the language to be able to actually verbalize what you are feeling, then it comes out in a temper tantrum, right? This is the reason why you will see, for the people who have young children, this is why temper tantrums happen at 2, a year and a half, 2, 3 years old, because they may not necessarily have the language yet to express what they're feeling. They have big emotions. Emotions are emotions. Don't think because they small, they little. Their emotions are little. No, their emotions are still the same. But now you have big emotions in a little person's body, and I cannot communicate with you what I feel. So what I'm gonna do, act out, so you can come over here and try to help me figure out what it is and help me regulate what I am experiencing. All I want is to be helped, to be regulated, to regulate the emotions, to regulate the anger, regulate the sadness, regulate the loneliness. So when I'm crying, you can come back and you can hold me, you can hug me, you can tell me you love me. That's what I want. So now elevate that to a 35-year-old person who's showing out, and you get angry, right? And you get angry about something, and now I don't have the language to communicate to my partner what it is that I'm feeling. So what I'm gonna do? Punch this wall, or punch you, break some, right?
Correct.
So this is us not teaching our children how to communicate how they feel is detrimental to their life. Period. Because I have seen how that translates into adulthood.
And on that with the kids, great question, DA, on the kids. The 7-year-old, right, of mine, she's not, she doesn't know how to express like words, you know what I mean? She just start crying, you know what I mean? So I used to be like that. I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't have the words to formulate it. Just need to learn how to get it out. And she has to be taught, listen, you have to kind of take a moment, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, breathe. You know what I'm saying? Breathe the techniques, because when she tries to talk, she can't get it out. It's just she's fumbling over the words, she's crying out of control. She can't really get it. So the thing is, breathe for a moment, go wipe your face, dry your eyes, talk slow, breathe, and then she's able to kind of get it out. And we practice these simple steps, and she's able now to kind of process and kind of slow her brain down, and then able to verbalize what she's feeling at the moment. I just feel sad, or I'm this, or I'm that. So, and that's key. And I wasn't taught that when I was young at all. My mom worked in it didn't work. You know what I mean? So, and then on the second point, when it comes to this, right? Do you think, or in your practice, do you teach people, not teach them, or help them kind of realize that your support system is very key to your mental health as well? Like,
Absolutely.
briefly talk about that, because I know that has a very big impact on your mental health. Because if you have the yes man, we were going to talk about the Kanye West thing. You know what I mean? Like, he's just all over the place. Yeah, he got $1 billion, but if he had somebody really sat down and had a conversation, I don't know if he did or not. I don't know, but just it's reckless. You know what I mean? The stuff is reckless what he's doing. So I don't know if his, like, does that have a big impact on your patients with their support system? I don't know if you ask those questions. Hey, who do you have to go to? Who do you have to talk to? Like, talk on that briefly when it comes to your support system.
I absolutely ask about social supports. It's actually one of the first things that I ask about as part of their initial assessment. Who are your people? Okay. Who in your life is considered a support and a strength, and who is in your life is considered a stressor? Sometimes they're both the same person. My mama is my support and she's my stressor. You know? That's just real. Like, sometimes it just is what it is, right? It is what it is. Right. Yeah. So those things happen as well. But I also have to, as part of us creating a maintenance plan for them. Because I tell them from day one, therapy is not forever. You are not going to be sitting here talking to me from now for the next 10 years. No, ma'am. Okay. That's not my goal for you. My goal is to teach you, help you understand, and for you to get the skills that you need so that you can move forward. And so how are we going to do that? By creating a plan. And part of that plan are your social supports. Research has absolutely shown that people with stronger social supports have better mental wellness, have better resilience, and ultimately have better medical outcomes as well. Right? So if you laid up in the hospital and can't nobody come visit you, ain't nobody bringing you food, ain't nobody going to check on you afterwards, or you get discharged from this hospital, your outcome is much worse than a person who had the same exact situation that you, but they got people who keep coming over here, checking on them, making sure they got their meds, helping them move around. Your social supports impact you financially, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So without social supports, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
No.
So if you were to place a number on that, I'm big on percentages and stuff like that. You know, people are like, why you always got a big percentage? What's your percentage of that? Like, that's just the way my mind is. So we can help kind of, you know, put it in a nice little bow. Hey, listen, based on it, there's 80%. That's a big number. So you might want to focus on that. That's kind of just how I am. So what number would you place on the social support as an overall mental health kind of like plan? What number would that be?
Now, this is not based off of research. This is just off the top of my head.
Yes.
Off the top of my head.
Yes.
I would say your social supports are probably about 60 to 70% of your wellness.
Damn.
If not more.
Yeah. That's a big number.
I believe that.
It's pretty high up there. It really is. You know, we all know that term. You know, it takes a village to raise a child. But what happened? Well, I ain't gonna be a baby forever. I need a village at 40. I still need one.
Yeah.
I still need one. And so we grow up thinking, well, I don't need nobody, and well, yes, actually, you do. You do, because, and if there's anything the pandemic has taught us, is that social isolation creates mental illness. It absolutely does. Right now, I'm gonna go old school on y'all for a minute. Y'all remember Castaway?
Yes.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
He had to talk to Wilson.
Oh yeah.
He had to create Wilson. He had to create Wilson to keep him have as a representation of a social support for him.
He needed someone outside of himself.
Outside of himself.
Right. Yeah.
When he lost Wilson, that was one of the biggest tragic moments of the whole movie.
Yeah. And it was painful actually to watch it.
Painful watching him lose Wilson.
Yeah.
Because that was his coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Y'all, it was a ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's be real for a second. Like, it was a ball. It was a non-living object.
He put a face on it. He gave it
a little bit of representation. He did.
And to dress it up a little bit. Yeah.
Right? To give him a semblance of humanity. But without that, his will to live, his will to keep trying to achieve his goal would have left him way sooner. So when I talk to people and you tell me you ain't got no friends, you ain't got no family, you ain't got no pets, you ain't got no plants, I am concerned for your wellness. I'm concerned for your wellness.
So when you seen that, and I'm sure your patients come back for reevaluations and follow-ups and things like that. So based on what you're telling me, the people who didn't have that social backing, were they better? And the practice, were they better? I would assume I know the answer, but just for the conversation right now, were they better or worse before, when you started with them after you initially did the session?
They're worse. They're worse without that. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Because let me tell you something. Remember those blind spots we talked about earlier?
Yes.
Guess what? Guess you have your blind spot, but guess who is not fooled by your blind spots? Your people.
Yeah.
Your family, your spouse, your bestie, your children, your children. My son called. We went to Hawaii in March, and I don't have a problem flying, but the crowds of having to walk through TSA kind of triggers my anxiety, especially because I'm walking with him. So I'm kind of like, and he looks older than what he is. He got locks,
Yes, he does.
Right?
Yes,
what I'm saying? So when we walking through there and now we going through LAX and the people trying to ask him, is he carrying drugs? And I want to be like, ma'am, yes.
He's a child.
Walking, right? I'm anxious and I didn't even realize it until we got through the thing. We sitting in, we get to the gate and my son looks at me and goes, Mom, he said, you're anxious. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he was like, yes, you are. He goes, you've been shaking your leg since we sat down. And I was like, oh, you're right.
We're paying attention, boy.
Let me tell you something. Boys and their mamas, they don't play. So that boy, he read me better than probably anybody I know. So he mentioned it, and that's when I realized, oh, I am anxious. Okay, let me.
Did you try to cut it off? Like,
no, I just do the things to kind of, to get back to a place. I do some deep breathing. I'm gonna throw these AirPods in. Let me listen to some J. Cole and like get in the zone. Throw on some Cole, and I will be good. And it was eye-opening to me because in that moment it reminded me why you need supports. Because there are going to be things that you don't see, but they will absolutely see.
The blind spots.
So when you start slipping on your meds, you're not, going to therapy as much, you're not journaling as much, you're not sleeping at night. Now you tossing and turning. Who you think gonna notice that you ain't been sleeping right better than your spouse who sleep right next to you? You waking up fine. It's been listen, I know this has been about 3-4 days. You tossing and turning in your sleep.
What's up?
What's up? What's up? You may not even have felt it yet because it takes time before it catches up to your awareness.
Yeah.
Right. And so having those social supports are part of that level of accountability because they're going to call you out. Lovingly, not like to be mean, but because of love, because of care and concern for you. Right. So if social supports are a huge aspect of your mental wellness, absolutely.
Okay. Wow. Learn some stuff.
This is good. This is good stuff. I'm not gonna hold
this. Honestly, I'm gonna repurpose this and blast out. You know what I mean? Just certain aspect of this conversation so people can see. Of course, here we have your anybody that you guys that are watching. Follow her at ValerieCarmel.com. Also, social media handle. As you can see, at the Valerie Carmel on Instagram. What are your other social media sites as well?
I think
shout those out
on Facebook. I can't remember all that stuff. My brain ain't got room for that long. Okay.
So I'm sure they can. If they go,
they can find me from there. They're
site.
all valid. They're all the Valerie Carmel. So Facebook is the Valerie Carmel, and then the number 1, and then on LinkedIn is the Valerie Carmel, all the same.
Okay, listen, y'all. Make sure y'all go follow her. I don't know. I might do a few sessions, man. Like since you doing evaluation, I say, man, I went to see 3 people, and I stuck with one. She was a Black woman, and I did like maybe 6 sessions with her, which were cool. Got out a few things, but no one did an evaluation. I'm like looking around. It's my first. I didn't know what to expect because it's my first one. So when we going into that, it's kind of what do we expect?
You have no clue.
You know what I mean?
It's really hard. It's because I feel like with that is, again, we're just now getting into a level of comfort, right? Of talking about mental health, going to therapy, but nobody actually is really talking about what's actually happening in therapy. So you don't know what to expect, right? So if you go to the dentist, they're supposed to clean my teeth. So if I walk out of here and ain't nobody clean my teeth, we got a problem. Right? If I go to the doctor at some point, y'all gonna put a stethoscope, y'all gonna listen to my heartbeat, like y'all gonna take my blood pressure, like
boom.
You're gonna take my blood pressure while I'm here. Y'all gonna check. There's certain things that we automatically can anticipate and have a level of expectancy of certain behaviors. When in therapy, you don't know, right? And so you'll start going and not really anticipate not know what to expect. And so in a lot of spaces, that can be challenging for people. So I usually tell people, if you go to therapy, 1, do you like your therapist? If you don't like them, switch. Get a
That's
new
what
one.
I did. That's why I went through 3 real quick. I said, "Oh, don't like her. Second,
don't like that." And that's okay. Cool. Ain't no problem. No pressure. Find you a therapist that you like. Because if you don't like them, then you won't talk to them. And if you won't talk to them, then that's the whole point of the experience, right? So that's 1. Number 2, you should probably ask, okay, how do we evaluate my progress?
That's what I should have asked.
How do we evaluate progress here?
How do you know we make any improvements?
Any improvements, right? How do I know, right? If I'm here for weight loss, as an example, right? Well, I know what the scale, I want the scale to move from here to here. Okay, cool. Now I know what I'm tracking. But in therapy, how do I know, right? And so that's a question. So I have clients take it before we even start, and we're going to take it every 12 weeks, every 8 to 12 weeks after that. We're doing it again because I need to see where you at consistently. Yeah. And so that allows people to see their own progress, because oftentimes, right, you've been dealing with a situation for so long, you don't see your progress, but I do. So when I tell you, oh yeah, I see progress in the alignment, oftentimes, they're like, oh, okay, my therapist is just, she's just praising me. It's my therapist. That's what she's supposed to do. Okay, cool. Let's do these numbers. Okay, well, you started at 16 and now you're at a 6. Oh, yeah.
That's problems, yeah.
Right. So now I can give you not just qualitative feedback, right, of what I'm observing in you when we're having these sessions, but also the assessments you complete without me. I send them to you in an email. You take them. When you take them, you're not even in therapy. You're taking them at home or wherever it is that you're opening up your, going into your client portal to fill it out. So you come back to me and I'm like, okay, this is where you started. Your anxiety was high at 18. Okay, it's been 10 weeks. And now you at a 9. Okay, so now, okay, it's changed. Okay, so now whatever you notice. Well, I sleep better at night. That's great. I've gone from eating 1 meal a day, now I'm eating 2 meals a day. Okay, great. All right. So where are the right? So now we got to add the numbers.
Yeah.
And fit it into the context of how your day-to-day life is showing up, so that you can start to identify not just your progress, but also when you start to slip. Because that is key. Because we all gonna slip. But you need to be able to catch your slip faster. You want to catch the slip on the first dip rather than
fifth or sixth or seventh.
I have a line that I wrote in my book that I even use to this day with my clients. I'm like, no, you don't wait till you're fully engulfed in flames to decide you need a fire. I need you to hit it at the flicker. Your pant leg is on fire. Let's fix it. Don't wait.
Not to your whole body. Yeah.
Burning up.
Fully engulfed in flames. And now we're like, oh, well, maybe I need to go back to therapy. No, we should have got it when your pant leg was on fire.
Now we need the emergency room.
Right, now we're doing the most. Now I got to see you twice a week for the next few weeks. That gets you back down. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? It's like, I love when you use this with the weight loss analogy is because I think a lot of people has felt this before, right? Like, they were in a period of time when they were trying to lose weight, or they lost the weight, right? And sometimes you don't get the feedback, the social feedback. You don't get the social feedback when you've been losing weight, you're looking good, you're feeling good, and because you're kind of, yesterday rolls into the day, today rolls into tomorrow, so it kind of feels all the same, right? You lose track of true improvement. But when you slip, or when you've slipped for a while and you look back at those old photos, you're like, God damn, I look really good, and nobody said nothing. And it was in the time when you were making those improvements, those day-to-day improvements that didn't show up on the scale necessarily. When you were going to the gym and you felt like you probably hit your plateau, that's when you were in your like, in your glory, in a sense, right? And so I think sometimes like, just to underscore what you're saying, like, when we're practicing those good mental health habits, we're not going to always get the social validation that, oh yeah, you've been practicing good mental health habits, right? But it's when we slip on those things, and now, for whatever reason, things are starting to deteriorate. You look back and you realize, man, I was in a good place then, that I didn't fully appreciate the progress I had made when I had made it. And so it makes even the get back, right? Even trying to get back to that place even much more crucial. And I mean, obviously, I think for some people that second go around, they can appreciate the climb right back up and stuff like that. And then they can take the sustainability more seriously. But just to underscore that point, like, we oftentimes we lose when we're in a good flow, we take it, we kind of like, it could be better when you're doing really good, you know what I'm saying? And appreciate the fact that you've come a long way,
It's so easy to kind of like, to kind of underscore or minimize the progress that you're making. It's really easy because it's showing up in such small ways that maybe you don't notice, or maybe other people don't necessarily initially identify. I've been reading this book, Atomic Habits, and it's talking about the 1% of growth, right? The 1% of it. And so when you're thinking about, and the example that they use in the book is about an ice cube that's melting, right? So ice cube melts at a particular degree, right? It's not going to melt 2 degrees above that. It ain't gonna melt 3 degrees above that. Exactly at that point is when it starts to melt. And so when you think about your own challenges, there are things that are changing around you that you may not necessarily notice, and then it'll be one thing that you're like, oh snaps, look what the hell I done did, and now you're in it.
Yeah.
Right. And my goal as a therapist is to help people to understand what does that look like for you. For certain clients, it's their environment. I have one client where the thing that we have been able to uncover is that the times when she notices her mental health is slipping, the first thing that changes is the organization of her home. So now clothes everywhere, the dishes ain't washed, this ain't here, this ain't there. And then all of a sudden, a few days later, now it's like, oh, she's in the dump, she want to get out of bed. And I said, okay, what do your room look like? You know, oh, that's what happened. Yep. Mm-hmm. So what does that now tell you? I need to be consistent about maintaining the environment in which I stay, because when that starts to look a particular way, it triggers my depressive symptoms. It makes me feel sluggish. It makes me not feel motivated because like the house is messy or this is going on and that's going on. Like these are things that each of us have to identify with ourselves. For me, it's sleeping. If I have been in the bed for 4 and 5 hours and I haven't really moved, I haven't gotten up, I haven't taken a dog, I know I'm in a mood because that's not normal for me. I have to keep moving. And so there has to be, and I'm not talking about the days where I'm tired and I need to rest. No, I'm talking about I'm fully rested. I just don't feel like it. That's why don't I feel like it? Because that's not where I normally live. So what's happening right now? Am I worried about something? Am I avoiding dealing with something? Am I procrastinating from a task that I need to do? Do I feel overwhelmed? And so my response is to now shut down. I have to identify those things in me. But if you are never taught how to do that, then you never know.
Yeah. There you
never
go.
Know. You just, you know, you just figure, just kind of ignore it or whatever, and it goes on until something else gets your attention enough for you to make that move or change it. So,
which is funny, and I always say to myself, like, and it's all, and this is how I know I'm dealing with something or have dealt with something. I always say to myself, I feel like something is wrong, like something is off. Like what's wrong with you? I don't know. I just don't feel good. I feel like something off, like something bad gonna happen or something. Never could pinpoint it. Like, what does that mean to me? But you're addressing, I'm going through those symptoms and don't know how to break it down. I don't know how to analyze it. I'm in the funk. All right, let me sleep it off.
Yeah.
And I didn't deal with it. I didn't deal with crap. I'm in the funk. That's just what it is.
All right, I'm gonna sleep it off. I'm gonna smoke it off. I'm gonna drink it off. I'm gonna do whatever. Right? That's what we're gonna do. Like that has been the way historically that we have learned to overcome distress. Right? And the reality is that there's a better way. There's a better way that is less harmful to you, less harmful to the people that you care about than the people that you have to interact with. Right? Like there is a better way of dealing with things, and this is why mental health is so important for people to really understand. It's more than just, we're talking more about than just your brain. We're talking about your brain, we're talking about your physical well-being, we're talking about your emotional well-being, we're talking about your spiritual well-being, we're talking about your financial well-being. Your mental health bleeds into everything. Because if you're in a funk and what makes you happy is swiping this card,
hey,
right?
That's right? A shirt,
right? Now I order 3 heels and 5 shirts and 2 dresses, and I work from my house. Where am I going? Why? Right? Like,
hey, blow it back for no reason. Just blow it back for no reason.
That's a shirt.
For no reason.
Mental health bleeds into every area of your life. I work shirts. If you're listening, we got another one. It came from Val. What's the saying? What is it again?
Which one?
The mental health bleeds into what?
Into every area of your life. Everything.
That's a shirt. So we're gonna get that on the shirt.
Every single aspect of your life.
I like that.
You'll spend money you don't have and you probably shouldn't be spending. You're not gonna do any of your spiritual stuff. So going to church, spending time in prayer and worship, you ain't gonna do none of that. Why? Because I don't feel like it.
That's it.
Right. So like it bleeds into every area of your life. So without mental wellness, like there is no wellness. Period.
So
Just none.
now, well, we're gonna wrap this up, guys, because we want to go back into this this other segue of a topic. We want to thank Miss Val. You know, I enjoyed it, to be honest. I learned some things as well. Like you say, doing the evaluation. I never done an evaluation. So I didn't know how to track my stuff. So it just those, and I'm gonna go back and listen to it myself and write a few things down and kind of like, you know what, this is some stuff that I can do, for myself, because it's really important to kind of be able to digest those things, talk to yourself. And one of the takeaways I got from this is the major one is your social support system. That's the major thing that I took away from it. If you don't have that, you don't have anything, and they can hurt you and they can help you. It just depends on who they are. Because if you have a lot of yes men in your camp, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? So and DA know, because we can look at Kanye. We got all these people that has yes men. One's going to say, what's the guy's name? Antonio Brown. He got a lot of yes men in his camp. Why? Because he has money, and everybody want to be along on that ride. We're gonna go to the nice bars. We're gonna go to vacation. We're gonna go here. He gonna have all yes men, because if that one guy that say, yo, bro, you effing up. You know what I mean? You ain't doing right. And the minute that happens, guess what? I'm gonna cut you off, and ain't gonna have you access. You understand? So I think, like you said, it's full circle when it comes to that, and I think it's very important. And it goes to say that your social circle helps you or hurts you, depending on the situation. Also, like I said, mention, guys, make sure y'all follow us on all platforms. I stand on that, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Make sure you guys go follow Val at the Valerie Carmel, and also her actual website, as I have here down on the ticker. And make sure y'all set up y'all appointments, because guess what? Y'all need them. You know what I mean? Y'all need it. Y'all out here suffering, going through shit. And guess what? Y'all ain't getting the help. You understand? So guess what? When you know better, you do better. You understand? So y'all want to go back and listen to some things to know what you look for. Y'all make sure y'all go back on this replay and now y'all watch it. All right. So we're gonna segue into this topic. Should gender roles in a relationship be redefined in 2022? Again, should gender roles in the relationship be redefined in 2022? So what I mean by that, right? Back in the day, we had husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, like my grandpa. All right. My grandmother never worked a day in her life. My grandfather owned a business, lawn business, very successful back in the day. And that's basically how he got his money. Never worked for them people. Y'all know who them people are when I say people. So, but so the fact that the point is, she was very traditional. She cooked, she made pies for a living. That was her living. The sweet potato pies, to die for it. So people would come to her house, they would place orders, and that's how she would get her money. And so she cooked and made plates on the side as well. So that's just what it was. He said, you know what? I don't want you to go nowhere. This is my grandfather talking to my grandmother. I don't want you to work. My grandmother didn't even drive a car. She didn't have a driver's license because he drove her everywhere. That's so traditional. You understand? But now we have modern women. You know what I mean? They're working. They're making more money. They're more educated. So does that mean she shouldn't be in the kitchen? Should that mean she shouldn't stay home and work that traditional job? Or be that not I was gonna say maid, but that would have been wrong.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it.
I'm trying to get my words. I got a female on here. She gonna go off on me. So I just want to know, should it be different? Because I know there are certain people that, like, women are the breadwinners and the guys are staying home and being traditional, stay at home dads. You understand? Should it be changed, or should we just leave it at it? So, Val, if you want to go on that, or DA, whoever wants to go first, be my guest.
Val, I'll let you have it.
Oh, okay. I don't know at this stage if there is anything in terms of a gender role kind of feel to it, honestly, because I think we have been at a time that I've never seen this much diversity in the way people's family lives are set up, right? And so rather than trying to figure out, individualized kind of like a gender role, I think it's more important for people to figure out what it is that works best for you individually, right?
Mhm.
And then kind of figure out in terms of your mate, what does that look like, right? I was with my son's father for, I don't know, at the time I was like 15 to like 33. You know what I'm saying? So like we lived together for 10 years. Guess who did the laundry? He did.
Mm.
Like, he did laundry because he'd wash them, I'd fold them, right? I hate to cook. So, right? But I did. Washing dishes, I hate to wash dishes. He washed dishes, right?
Mhm.
And so that was how we were able to kind of figure out what it was that worked best for us because of, I worked during the day, he worked at night as a chef. And so that we figured out how to show up for our family unit as a whole by balancing out the things that needed to be done. Right. So at the end of the day, I think it's more important for one, each person needs to know how to do all the things. Whether you like to do them or not do them, you need to do all the things. You need to know how to cook, clean, iron, do your own laundry. Like you should do all those things for yourself. Period. Now that way, when
Why
you
though?
show up,
Why though? Why is that important for you?
because this is you need this. Because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, none of us know when we are going to be didn't come out with us. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't know, I'm 40 and single, right? And so I don't know when that time will change. So if I had to wait till I became married again for me to decide whether or not I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, how does that benefit me in the in between time? Right. And even if you meet your partner, let's say you're 18. Okay, cool. Y'all meet at 18, y'all in love, and get married. Okay, great. There's nothing statistically. The odds are not in your favor for you to be married at 18 and still be married to said person at 35.
Nah, nah,
That
nah,
is not
nah,
what
nah.
statistics say. Right.
No.
So if that changes, then what?
Mhm.
Right. So at the end of the day, your own capabilities is way more important than the couple's capabilities. Then when you come together, then both people can kind of figure out, okay, I can do this versus that, and you can do this versus that. But if you show up and bro man, you don't know how to you can't put nothing on this grill. You don't know this toilet that broke, I gotta go to Home Depot and talk to the people and go figure out how to fix it. Like what is you doing here?
Uh-huh.
Right?
What is
Like
you
how
good for? How
right? Like
you benefit?
what are we
This,
doing?
yeah.
How are we coming together to support each other? Right. So if you cook, right, then I clean. Or if I cook and then you clean. Because maybe today I'm in the mood and I do want to cook something. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go in here and do something. Well, you're gonna do the other piece. Right. So there needs to be you have a lot more options as it relates to the setup of your life when you have the capabilities to do the things because your life won't change from time to time anyway. So you gotta adjust over time. So
So you're saying more so of a partnership type
oh
thing,
absolutely.
not like, oh well, this is what I'm bringing to the table. You adapt to what I'm doing, type thing. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There needs to be I think we have gotten away from expecting people to, this is what I have, and I need you to come here with all of these things and fill in all the gaps in which I have. Well, then, if that's how you're set up, then you limit your partnerships based off of your areas of lack, and that's never a good thing. It's never a good place to be.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. So you meet a guy, um, he's well off, right? And there's a situation where he doesn't want to do the cleaning, he doesn't want to do the cooking, he doesn't want to do any of that, right? Are you okay with him? All right, we're gonna get a chef, maid, and we're gonna take care of this. Um, but you feel as though it's unnecessary money spent, and you say you'll take care of those things. Are you okay with him having that chef and that maid and that whatever it is, that nanny? Are you okay with that versus I can do it? I think it'd be better for us to kind of work in that dynamic versus having a stranger come in our home and do all these things, because when it comes to that, strangers, you never know what would happen when nannies and all different things happen. So, but would you be okay with that?
Oh,
If he
absolutely. Sign me up.
really?
Sign me up. Let's get all the people. I need
Mm.
I need a lawn man because I'm not out here because I'm not going out there and cutting this grass in this hot Florida humid weather. Absolutely not. Let's get I want a lawn man. I need the person who's going. Can we get an executive assistant who can make sure all these errands and stuff are run? Yeah, I want all of that.
Really?
If we got the money to do it, absolutely. Because you know why? Because those are skills.
Okay.
Those are skills, right? And so if you, and ultimately I am benefiting and and supporting other people's businesses as well, right?
Mm.
Right. So this,
So it's a whole scope for you when it. Okay.
it's a whole scope. If we have the financial capability to hire someone to come in two days out of the week and do meals or whatever the case may be, meal prep for us, or take care of the laundry or whatever the case may be, that time is being utilized for us to pour back into ourselves, pour back into our family, pour back into our businesses to create more wealth, and also back into our community. So ultimately, everybody wins.
Mm. I then. Okay.
That's my thought process. That's my thought process.
Okay.
So if any of the rich men who want that, please come holler at me.
Sign me up.
Listen, sign me up.
You know my issue. You know my issue with the current dialogue when it comes to relationships is that there's not that added component of pouring back into the other person, because, and the reason why I'm saying that is because you hear sometimes, well, I want X, I want Y, I want Z. And if we're looking at it from the traditional model, if your husband or partner alleviates all those traditional responsibilities, takes those traditional responsibilities off your plate, what are you then doing? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, are you gonna be available? Like, are you gonna be accessible? You know what I mean? Or is it a situation where he's just paying for someone's livelihood that's not doing anything for, that's not doing anything for
That's why I was going. I knew DA was going to bring that home, and that's what I was coming to. So
because like for me, like if I'm like, let's say I'm a wealthy attorney and I'm doing my thing, and now I can pay for someone to consistently I can pay for someone to cut my grass, someone to cook my food, or maybe that may be one expense I don't want to do. But let's say if that's something that, cook the food, clean. We got housekeepers. We have housekeepers and a chef that comes in twice a week or 3 times a week to prepare the meals, like on Sunday, Wednesday, and another day, right? My thing is, I'm like, okay, if that happens, if that's the situation, but your initial response is to take all that free time to go do other things that's going to draw you away from home or take you away from the relationship, then I'm like, yo, that's money not well spent. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's money not well spent, because I think a lot of guys don't get into relationships just wanting to just be a sponsor for someone, right? They want to actually get love back. You know what I mean? And so I guess that's been the discourse since the pandemic, because the pandemic caused that conversation. Mm-hmm. It was percolating on all over social media, like, it makes sense, right? It's coming from largely a lot of people who are in their 20s, in their 30s, so they're in the dating market. They're going out, they trying to holler, or they talked, or they had a relationship, fizzled out after 3 weeks or 3 months, and they're going through that that topsy-turviness of what the dating market is. We know how it is. We know how it is. And so it's like that was one of the issues that I had in that conversation. And it's like, yo, like, if you get this dude that can help make your life easier. If you can't pour back into him, you're a waste of money. You know what I'm saying?
And then what? And Val, I know you spoke on it. You would say, no, I'm gonna use that. And I heard what you were when you were talking. You're gonna pour back into the businesses, and you're gonna try to do some other things, pour back in ourselves. But DA, are you saying with this new generation, that's basically what's happening? It's not what Val's talking about. Val says she's gonna take that and run with it and use it for better, for good. But you're saying, DA, that people are having that same situation when that guy is paying for these different things, or you guys are paying for these different services to pour back into business and to spend more time with your kids or whatever the case may be. And people are taking advantage of it. That's basically
exactly that's what I'm saying. They're taking advantage of it.
Okay.
And they're framing the relationship as not one worth being in if they don't get to take all these trips that they want to take, if they don't get to do all these things that they want to do. And it's like sometimes I'm asking myself, what's the purpose of the relationship that y'all envision? You know what I'm saying? And who do y'all envision being in that relationship with? Is it someone that you love or someone that you could care less about? You know what I'm saying?
You know, I mean, you bring up a good point, but I think at the core of that, I don't think is really the question of a gender role, but more so about communication, right? So if we make the decision that we're going to hire a chef, as an example, okay, well, before we do all of that, we need to have a conversation. How does that impact us? What is the benefits? What are the pros? What are the cons? What does that look like financially for us? What does that look like when we no longer have to deal with cooking meals and grocery shopping and all of that? How does that impact our relationship? How does that impact our family dynamics? Now, what are we able to do? Because ultimately, if we are just doing things, we decide to get the chef, but there is not a consensus as to how is that going to impact us. You have your view of what that means, and she has her view of what that means. Then we're doing the same thing for two completely different reasons. And then people end up getting frustrated, right? Because one person had an expectation that was not communicated to the other person. For them to understand and say, oh, yes, that is something I'm willing to do, or no, that is not something I'm willing to do. But because you thought about it that way, you assumed that person was going to present themselves with a different response. And then when they didn't get it, then now people salty, right? Naturally so. That's how resentment breeds, right? Because I have an expectation that was not met consistently. So part of that is ultimately communication. If we're going to do this thing, what is the benefit to us? And I think that's ultimately the issue, is that so many people want to just do it just to be able to say that they have it. Right? All right, yeah, we taking all these trips. Okay, that's cool, but why? What do we do with this trip? Right?
Yeah,
okay, that's cool. I mean, I love going to Cabo. Like, fly me to Cabo, let's do it. But like, what is the point? Is this part of, is this a vacation where we're pouring back into each other during all of these trips?
Vacation. All right. Ball greasy. Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, right? Like, are we going there because we're taking time to pour into each other? Are we going there to look at, some properties? Are we going there because, we may want to open up a business? What are we doing? Right?
Is it, and you're like, is this an income producing activity? I love that whole phrase. Or is this us time? There's you know what I mean? Yeah, cooling. You know what I mean? Yeah, we should be doing stuff with purpose as we age. So every now and then, we should have our fun, but more like we're adults here, so we should be adulting. You know what I mean? For the most part, have our free time. But like you just mentioned, what are we doing? We're going to take random trips just to be taking random trips and spending, money. All right, well, we could be using that same money and then going and investing and going to those different places and looking at properties and buying some properties or whatever the case may be. So like you said, what's the whole purpose of it all? You know what I mean? So as you mentioned, back to what? The C word, communication.
And I'm going to say this. I think that's why a lot of people kind of default to the traditional, set of responsibilities, because one, it's been not only has it been talked about, we see it in practice. It's been preached and it's been practiced, and there's people who are diehards about it, and we see whether or not it works for them, whether or not it don't. You know what I'm saying? I think obviously we live in a different world, right? Like in terms of we don't necessarily have to hunt and gather. We don't have to hunt for food, and we don't have to gather berries. Like, no, right?
Really, bro?
Really? Like even if we're looking at it like the type of economy that we live in, most right now both people have to leave their house. Now we're entering a new phase where because it's computers, both people can actually be working from home, but for the most part, couples are leaving their house. Most couples are leaving their house to go work for firm X. This other person goes work for firm Z. Schedules often don't align because she's a nurse, he's a doctor, he's a parole officer, she's a teacher. You get what I'm going with this? It's like we have these other demands, and we work in most people don't work for themselves, and so in that sense, the relationship model that best works for them often is like a modified version of the traditional model, and then it has modified meaning like there's not only one breadwinner, there's two breadwinners. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Schedules are not always on the same page, so that means even though we live together technically, I see you really either when I'm coming home and you're going out, or it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And so maybe Saturday, maybe it's a Sunday, maybe it's a Monday or another random weekday in the week. Then we have family, right? Then you have the added component of children, right? So we're creating the relationship time. A lot of people, they said like to get what I wanted, I probably have to cheat, because at least with that person, check me out. At least with that person, check me out. At least with that person, I get that old thing again. I get that thing again. Whereas with this current relationship, we've been so locked in on the functionality and the mechanisms of the relationship, like it's lost its magic. You see what I'm saying? And so communication is key. So that's why I just want to talk about that, because not everybody's good at communication. Based on the conversation we had about mental health, everybody can't even say the degree or to the intensity of how they feeling. Are you enraged, or are you out of your body right now?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Am I aggravated, or am I sitting here about to figure out how to? Or am I almost to the point I'm going to end up in handcuffs today? Like, what is?
Yeah,
where is the line? I think another good point to bring up also is just the familial aspect and the cultural aspect of that as well, right? Because what we see growing up becomes what we consider to be the norm, right? The norm. So I grew up in a household where, my family's from Haiti, and oftentimes So for many of them, it's always that the man just works, but he don't do nothing, right? And the woman is cooking, cleaning, going to work, doing all the things. All right, cool. Well, my dad cooks, right? He didn't cook very often, but But if we were doing something and he wanted something to eat, yeah, he's gonna go in there and cook for me and maybe some plantains and fry him up something and make some rice. Like, he can cook. So, I have dresses till now that needed to be hemmed. My dad hemmed them.
What?
My mama can't sew. Yeah.
You serious?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. That's
so.
I don't know a lot of men that do that.
My grandparents were tailors, right?
Oh,
so my dad, so he learned, right? So these were things but my mama can't do that. I grew up with.
So those roles have to kind of, but normally we would think that's a woman's duty or role.
Correct.
But like you said,
that's because most women were trained in how to do it. Because it was passed down, so it was like
it's an exposure. The issue is exposure ultimately.
Yeah.
Who you are exposed to, right? And so when that happens, that is what narrows, expands your view as to interactions and partnerships, right? I would say I'm pretty girly as the term goes. I'm pretty girly, but my dad made sure that I knew I could change the headlights of my Lancer when I bought one. I knew I can change headlights, I can change the air filter, and I can change my own tire. I don't need you to do that, bro. Move on. Pass me that. I got it. Right? Why? Because he was a person who made sure that it was important for me to be able to do that. At the same time, he was like, but listen, be doing none of this. I'm going to teach it to you. And that was my dad's thought process. That was always how he talked to me. Listen, I'm going to teach you how to do this. If he's here, he needs to do it. But I'll never want you to feel like you need him to be here in order for it to get done. You're going to learn how to do it by yourself. You can do it by yourself, and you're going to make enough money. You can pay somebody to do it for you, but don't ever feel like you need to be stuck in a situation where you have to consistently depend on somebody else, right? And so that is why the level of independence is important for you to be able to do things for yourself, right? So when you are in a space where you are exposed to people doing multiple things. I've seen my father cook, right? I've seen my father sew. My mom, she don't know how to do hair, and I got a lot of hair. Okay. My aunties and them would do my hair. My mom she didn't know what to do with it. She wasn't that kind of girl. She never learned how to do those things. And so when you are exposed to almost a more broad view of what tasks are assigned to one thing versus one person versus one gender versus a different gender, and you kind of break those down, then now it doesn't seem strange to you. Right? Yeah. Like now it's just, okay, it's just something that need to be done versus feeling like, oh no, this is labeled as a woman's task, or this is labeled as the man's task. It's whoever has the bandwidth and the skill set to do it.
Yeah. And that's normally where I am. Yeah, I'm raised by my grandparents and believe in the whole tradition thing. But certain people who you come into contact with, like you may meet a poor woman that's used to, she say, hey, listen, I'm good at this. I'd rather do X, Y, and Z versus being a traditional, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would want to spend more time with you. Yeah, I'm gonna bring home the bacon, but you don't have to make a whole lot of money. I just want you to treat me right because that's what I need. Or if you can do, make sure the yard cut or do this, you know what I mean? Like I don't need you to cook, or I want you to cook. It's just like you say, it goes back to the whole communication piece when it comes to things. So that's the main point. Listen, hey, I expect X, Y, and Z. You put your expectations out there and see if it meshes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But nowadays, things are different. We might have to redefine things. You know what I mean? So when it comes to, hey, you're going to cook, or we're going to get a chef, or whatever the case may be, and you have to find what works for you. You two, the dynamic. So it's not a whole traditional thing because things rose or flipped in reverse. So, but again, it's just communication.
You got to be real with what it is that you actually want, and
not fake the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not fake it. Like, listen, I'm not dating no man who can't cook. Period. In a sentence.
At all.
Unless there are plans in order for us to be able to maintain somebody who financially can come in and cook consistently. That is not something that I want. I don't desire.
So if he brings that to the table, hey, listen, I'm able to put us in a position where, yeah, I can't cook. I want to move forward with you, but since you put that out there, well, I'm gonna make accommodations for this to happen. Then you're like, all right, I can work with that, but you have to see that go to fruition.
That for me is something that matters to me. Why? For lots of different reasons. My father cooked all the time, right? And then two, I don't like to cook. I do, absolutely. I mean, you've seen the signs of my son. Clearly, he is not malnourished. Okay. But cooking is just not something that I enjoy doing. It never has.
It's non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable for you.
It's just non-negotiable for me. Like that's just how I'm set up. Like, and I have been fortunate that every man I have ever dated all cook. Everybody.
Damn.
So I'm gonna keep it real. See, like I'm gonna say this. I mean, I'm gonna borrow the same phraseology of your dad, and that is like, I can cook when I need to cook. When I was single, I cooked my food when I need to cook my food, but I'm dead set on I'm not cooking if I'm in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't cooking. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and part of it comes from, the fact that like I see the situation like I can do a whole lot of other things, and I would be kind of, I know what type of person I would be in terms of how I would feel if I'm the same person that's cutting the grass. I'm the same person that's organizing, the finances of the family. I'm the same person that has to answer the doorbell or answer a security threat if there's a security threat to me. If I'm doing everything and you can't do that one thing, it's like I feel as if, hold up, what are we doing here? Because I'm providing way more value than I'm getting in return, right? And because just being able to sleep, being able to sleep, just having sex ain't enough. Having sex ain't enough. So I'm of the opinion, because I probably tell my son like, yo, you gonna learn how to cook, but it ain't no reason if I'm teaching you how to do everything else that you with a woman that can't cook. Like, then what are you doing? What is she doing? What is she doing? You know what I'm saying? Because
we all got
it's all about, like you said, that communication about what do you want for yourself, and you got to be self-aware, right? How would you respond in a certain situation if this came to fruition? Like, would you be happy? Would you be sad? How would it affect your mood? Will that then spill over to the other areas? Because when we're talking about stressors, oftentimes I hear when you like, especially because I saw that you also do maternal mental health, right? That a lot of women, they feel so overwhelmed, especially after they give birth, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and it continues to go on. Child is already 3 years old, it's still going on. Child 4 years old, is still going on. And they feel like they're under a lot of weight, and pretty much they're not receiving reciprocal value now, right? They're not receiving reciprocal value because, of course, like for certain men, as most men are raised, that they got to provide, right? They just know, hey, I got to be making some money. I got to be able to do X, Y, Z. But we didn't get a chance to talk about this earlier, and that was like that work-life balance. Some people work certain jobs just to provide, completely takes them out the house. Mom is now, she's the linebacker, she's the DB, she's the safety, she's the quarterback.
The kicker.
She's holding that, and she's doing that with probably.
She's on special teams.
Yeah, she's special teams. She's doing that with a son and a daughter, and then one of them might have special needs.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm just giving you the life, it's just that a lot of women feel overwhelmed. And I would imagine that other people, maybe not just simply women, it could be men in other instances who feel that way. And so it's just like, I guess that communication is very important, because I'm looking down the road. Like, what will this look like down the road? And because it might become a problem down the road that could be, it could have been mitigated had it been talked about it at the door.
Had we had a conversation.
Yeah.
Nah, y'all hitting some points, man. Like, know, like I said, know what you guys want to deal with, when it comes to things in relationship. The communication is key, of course. And Val, when we wrap things up here, what we like to do, that's why our podcast is called I Stand on That. So if you have a point that you want to make, like I say, hey, listen, I say, hey, DA, what do you stand on this subject? You say, hey, I stand on whatever your matter is, and boom, and go from there. And we just end it out from that way. So I'll go first when it comes to the topic. Should gender roles in relations to be redefined? What I stand on this topic is it depends on the individuals, right? As we just defined or had a conversation about, you guys have to define what that looks like. You have pros, you have cons, blind spots, as we talked about early. that you just I ain't that ain't the thing that I do. That's a blind spot. I don't like to cook. That's a blind spot for me. So I'm good. So you have to get with the other individual and have the conversation. Listen, if you cook, like that's y'all first conversation. Listen, I got a few questions. Do you cook? Do you love cooking? That's two different things. Do you cook?
Mhm.
Yes, but do you love cooking? Love cooking. It's not a burden. It's not an issue. They
Correct.
value it. It's just one of those
A love
things. Like,
language.
oh, Mr. Chapman. Oh, all right. I'm gonna say this too. If you guys have not read the book, please read the book because it defines what those love languages are. Act of service is a love language as far as cooking. It's a service, you like being it done, you know what I mean? Physical touch, quality time, gifts, words of affirmation, all those things. It's a great book for couples to get into. And normally, it should be a lead up. Like you guys have a conversation, read the book together, and then find out what your love languages are. It'll go a long way. So, great book. Love the way you brought that up. Da, what are you standing on?
I'm standing on Val might hate me for this. I'm standing on communication. I'm standing on, so you can't take that one. I just took it. I'm gonna stand on communication. I think it's but you know what? I use like the football or sports analogy, and it's like communicate early and communicate often. You have your base set, right? You have this is the base model. This is what we normally do under normal circumstances. But communicating early and communicating often allows you to shift things around in special situations. You know what I mean? And I think two people who love each other and love spending time with each other and wish the best for each other will communicate early and will communicate often, just out of love and respect for the person that they're in a relationship with.
Okay. Val, what do you stand on this topic?
I stand on people knowing they are and being comfortable with who they are. I think part of the challenges that people have in these gender roles is that they don't know what they actually want, and because they don't know what they want, they will try to shape and mold themselves into what they think the other person wants out of them. But that's not true to who they are. They can't maintain that, right? And then ultimately, resentment sets in. Now we beefing, and now there comes the demise of the relationship, right?
Now they got to come see you.
And now, well, I don't do couples. Absolutely not.
Wait, you don't do couples?
No.
Individual
session only.
Okay, it's okay. Is there? I ain't want to get in, but is there a reason for that, or?
One, that's not really my skill set. You really have to have a really good handle on trying to, from what I feel personally, feel like I gotta corral people a lot in couple sessions, and it just takes too much out of me personally to kind of do that. I'd rather help people individually figure out who they are, right? And then you can show up better in your relationship. So that's the thing. But ultimately, that's what I stand on. Self-awareness. You got to know yourself. You got to know who you are, and you got to be comfortable with who you are. If you can do that, then showing up in the relationship is a lot easier.
Listen, I love it. I love it. So those are our 2 cents, guys, on gender roles. Should they be redefined? Again, communication, be self-aware who you are, and stand on you being genuine with yourself and knowing what you want out of a situation. So that's all we have, folks. Until our next 2 weeks. I think we're going to bring on a chef next time on the show. He's a pioneer as well. So I had a talk with him last week. He said he'll join. Basically confirmed if that will be our next show. So we're gonna get some good cooking, just like we talked about. Get you a good chef. Maybe y'all can get him on a couple of, you know what I mean. So that's gonna be our show then. as we just talked about the whole getting the chef and stuff on it. If that's what y'all want to do, that was funny. But anyway, thank you, Val, for joining us. Like I say,
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
No problem. I was really informed on a few things, regarding that. And like I say, guys, go follow her. Let me see here at the Valerie Carmel, and also go to her website and y'all find some information. She was on featured on a magazine, which article you guys can check that out as well. On book, she's an author. She's doing big things, guys. She doing amazing things, helping people in the community, our people at that. So, which is, she has our best interests at heart. And guess what? She's one of us, and she understands the culture, which is the big main thing that you just mentioned, Val, about coming to one space and understanding who they are, which is really important. So I thank you for because it is a service what you're doing, unselfish service at that, because it takes a lot to kind of listen to people, and sometimes they may weigh on you, just like what do you call these people? Listen to people's problems and stuff. So it's kind of like, sometimes it weighs too much, and I know it can be too much at times. We didn't even talk about that piece, but that's another, you know what I mean? That's another situation, how that weighs on you as well, in your own life. But again, just thank you for everything, your wisdom, your kindness, and your love towards this special niche, which it is. So that's all we have, guys. Until next time, y'all see y'all on the flip side.
Peace.